So if you'd like to hear any lore, and I mean any lore whatsoever, make sure you're in the Discord or a Patreon member or leaving a YouTube comment. I'm going to switch it up every now and again. I'm going to go back and forth between everybody and kind of pick. But I'm going to give the Patreon first dibs on most times. So make sure you're a part of the community in one of those three ways. And I'll ask a question or a poll, and you can be part of the community and choose what every week's lore segment is. And this week's lore, courtesy of the Patreon, the Ghoulman Entertainment Patreon that supports this show, courtesy of them, is the lore on Vault 3 from Fallout New Vegas. So now Vault 3 is a really interesting vault because it's considered, in my book at least, technically a successful vault. Vault 3 is one of the 17 control vaults in the entire series. Out of 122 vaults, only 17 of them are not social experiments that are used to experiment on the people of the United States. It is one of only two vaults that are inside of Las Vegas, the other one being Vault 21, and in Fallout New Vegas, Vault 3, 19, 21, and 34 are all vaults in the Mojave that have living inhabitants inside of it. Outside of some flooding, I can only imagine when the bombs hit, and Mr. House is responsible for making sure the Strip didn't get hit and had turrets put on top of 38. But outside of that, I can only imagine that it was pretty much par for the course that once the bombs hit, it pretty much meant that the entire infrastructure of the underneath was going to flood. Now, it's not the case for people like Red Lucy and her entire underground settlement that she has there. But pretty much more or less, it's a city. That's how I can only imagine New York would be. The subways would be flooded. The sewers would be flooded. So the vault, the lower sections of Vault 3 have flooded. But other than that, by 2281, it's still completely operational. But here's the kicker. The Fiends are actually in total control of the vault. Now, the Fiends is a raider group, but not just any kind of raider group. A raider group whose entire purpose is to get high. They're almost, speaking of cults earlier, they're almost a cult in the sense where they just want to get high. Their entire purpose is they worship drugs. They need to get high. They need their fix. What's a better pairing than an apocalypse situation and drugs? So, Moto Runner is quoted. You can speak to them. There's a few ways to get in, and it's non-hostile. But when you get in there, you can speak to Moto Runner, and if you ask him about him being there, he goes, "I guess it isn't a secret. Yeah, the residents of the vault are all dead. We killed them. Funny thing is, they just let us in. We didn't have to force the doors or anything." And I'll get a little bit into more of how that happened in just a moment. This makes Vault 3 an incredibly safe drug den and housing area. So their entire base is a vault, a completely fortified place that has one entrance and one exit. So you can't get a guy coming through the front and the back and ambushing you. There is one entrance, unless you want to get a big-ass drill. And I doubt you're going to have the ability to power that big-ass drill 200 and some odd years after an apocalypse situation. So here's a group of drug addicts who have essentially set up a crack house, and the crack house is one of the safest locations for them in the entire wasteland. Now, the way the doors opened to Vault 3 was because sometime during the 2200s, so 2200 to 2281, somewhere in that 81-year span, a water leak happens, and it forces them to open the doors. Now, this water leak is probably why the vault is flooded. You could argue that maybe within an amount of time, the entire vault will flood, and there's nothing they can do, but I wouldn't be surprised if this, and again, speculation, I have no clue if this is true, I would not be surprised if the reason why there is a leak is because of the bombs dropping and literally rocking the foundation. Now, they open the vault doors so they can trade with the outside occupants, the people of the southern ruins of what was formerly Las Vegas. They open the door so they can trade and they can get some supplies and they get some food and maybe do something about this leak. And they're open for a few days and they start making really good money. Like, think about it. This is a place that might be able to synthesize their own stim packs, might be able to create their own sort of medicines. They probably have like hydroponic grow houses where they can grow real fruit and or vegetables. And they might have pre-war snacks just in abundance, stockpiled. So they're willing to trade these things out and they're making good money. And then the Fiends just show up. And this attracts them. The Fiends took advantage of the Dwellers' lack of security and naivete towards the outside world. You're essentially just throwing somebody out and saying, here you go. They have no clue the politics. As far as everything I read off the wiki, and I get all of my lore off of fallout.fandom.com, the Nukapedia, if you will, everything I saw pretty much points in the direction of they were just a bunch of children. Like, they were just a bunch of children that, not physically children, but mentally children. They opened the door and they were like, now what do I do? And couldn't quite figure it out and got taken advantage of. The Fiends slaughtered everyone inside the vault and took Vault 3 for themselves, and this became their base, their headquarters, and it became a real threat for the residents of Vegas, the surrounding areas. Freeside, Westside, all these places have a real Fiends threat. I believe in Westside, if you start shooting, someone will go, is that the Fiends? It's a thing that just happens. Mean son of a bitch is known for taking down Fiends. But not only that, they've become a real nuisance for the NCR army at Camp McCarran. So here's this fortified army with money that they're taking as tax money. And they're having a hard time fighting a couple of drug addicts with cobbled together rifles with duct tape and bubbled gum. Now, the vault itself, a little bit on the layout of the vault, is an interesting place, but the layout of the vault is underneath a building in the South Ruins of Vegas. A regular, schmegular, simple vault controller that's reminiscent of the time of these Fallout games is there, and that's what's used to open it up. And they have a guard. And the walls are completely covered in graffiti because the Fiends are getting high and trying to be artistic or something. They're getting high. So here's these beautiful made with the government money Vault-Tec walls that are meant to withstand nuclear annihilation. And they're covered in the ramblings and the scrawlings of an illiterate drug addict. There's 3 usable areas that are in this vault that are still accessible. The first one being the recreation area, which seems to be larger than most other recreational areas in the series, at least in this era of Fallout. And this is where they actually keep a couple of slaves, a couple of fellas locked up are here. There's a quest. It's an unmarked quest, and I didn't even know it had a name. It's just called I Love Bananas. Never did I know that a quest called I Love Bananas was in the game, but it's here, and I thought it was a great addition, because I had no clue that they even knew what bananas are, because bananas absorb radiation. It's an unmarked quest, so it might just be in the game files, and it's not, for you to see. But bananas, fun fact, a little bit of a tangent, bananas absorb radiation, so if a nuke goes off, throw away all of your bananas. They have the maintenance wing, which is actually where you get to find Motor Runner. Him and his 2 guard dogs, Bone Nash and Nashbone, could be found there. Motor Runner's an incredibly interesting character. Maybe one day I'll take a gang or a faction and pit them against each other in the Patreon, and you guys can choose who you want to see. And last, we have the living quarters, where they actually have some captives. Rick, Lancer, Rachel, and Dennis can all be found there. This is for the quest I Love Bananas that I was speaking about earlier. It's fun. It's a great name. There's a dead fiend on one of the beds, surrounded by empty syringes, and Jet and Psycho all around him. And the rest of the vault from this point forward pretty much is completely flooded. So some notes and fun facts for you. One of these I absolutely adore and didn't know anything about. Vault 3 is a vault that I've only been in a handful of times, to be completely honest with you. One of them being that if you stand outside the vault door of Vault 3 with Veronica Santangelo, it will trigger part of her companion quest, which I didn't know. I feel like I've played this game for so long that I just know to trigger her quest, pretty much take her to the bunker. Didn't know that a vault door could do that for her. This one is my absolute favorite, and again, I had no inclination that this even existed in the slightest. But if you were with Lily Bowen, the super mutant who grew up in a vault, in the cafeteria, she will remember an experience of being a little girl growing up in the vault and her first kiss. Lily is a character who I do not think I've ever done her quest line. Ever. I know I've had her as a companion. I don't think I've ever done her questline. Another reason to put the game on Switch. But it's a game. I'm sorry, it's an experience that I would love to see just because I want to know, like, if she talks about the vertibird that she drove. That was Daisy Whitman's in Novak. I want to know how much she divulges about that. I want to know what it's like to grow up in a vault. Yes, she has very awful schizophrenia and she doesn't remember things and she thinks that her grandkids are real and there in front of her and whatever. But like a character that I've even seen people talk about her in like YouTube comments saying that she's one of the most compelling characters they've ever seen in a video game. And I think that's crazy because that's what Boone is for me. Like, I understand the plight of the lonely, lovesick loser. So if people are able to, and I can't imagine everybody who connects with her has schizophrenia, but that's powerful writing, man. And I should really do her quest sometime soon. Now, there's also something that I thought was really cool with the environmental storytelling, which is known for these games, and that is that some of the vault doors seem to have been tried to have been accessed. There are bobby pins laid out by the doors, suggesting that some of the fiends may have tried to pick their way through, which I think is really interesting because, you know, you get high and you want to do some dumb shit. And that's what the fiends try doing, baby. That's really all I have on the notes. I really, really like the Fiends. I really like the idea of this ragtag group of idiots. I believe that the term is Occam's razor, where you do the simplest thing, or the simplest thing is what is the outcome of something. So it isn't so much, oh, it's going to do this, and that. It's like, yeah, we're going to cross the bridge, we're going to get over. The most quick, brief way to put it. But, like, that's what they did. They walked in and said, die, and then killed everybody. And now they have a structure that, like, a structure that is so sought after that one of the biggest settlements or states that the NCR occupies is Vault City. Vault 8. Another control vault. So they have what could be Fiend Nation, like, they could spread out and move. I doubt they will because Vegas is right there, but they have the opportunity, especially if they can get a sub pump and pump out all the water. They could essentially maybe find a Gek in there. They could find something in there that could help them. Just interesting stuff. Great writing all around. It's New Vegas. It has great writing, but I love this. You're there. This happened semi-recently, or they're starting to get settled there, and now you have to kind of do something about it. If you want, there's some cool quests here too. But that's all I really have for you, my friends. That is this week's lore. Hey, hi, it's Vince. I hope you enjoyed that video you just watched. If you'd like to support in any sort of way, in the description below there's links to my Twitter, the show's Twitter, and the Patreon. You could support at any level, and you could be on screen like some of the names are currently. I hope to see you soon. Thank you for watching, and if you get a chance, check out another one of my videos. I'd really appreciate it. Share it with a friend. Cool. I'll see you guys later. Be safe. I love you. Bye.